Hey there, I'm Amy Hare, and welcome to my podcast. This is the podcast that you come to if you are looking for true inspiration and motivation in your life. I will be sharing stories of people who have been through significant traumas, who have been through hardship, adversity, and really deep challenges in their lives, and who have chosen to look at those things as an opportunity to create success in their life. I really hope you enjoy listening in. On today's episode, I chat with a Townsville local who I actually know from Touch Rugby League, and he hit me up to be recorded. And when I asked him what his story was, I was blown away by what he's been through in such a short amount of time. He's quite young still. I spoke with Tristan Nelliman-Adams. He has a really, really interesting story, and he's doing some really inspiring things with Indigenous youth here locally in Townsville. So definitely one worth listening to, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more from him in the very near future. I am joined by a very special guest tonight. Before I kind of intro him altogether, this is one person who's hit me up and gone, I want to be on your podcast. and then told me he was a huge fan of it. So, I almost had to get him on at some point. But he does have a really fascinating story. So I have Tristan Nelliman-Adams joining me today. Thank you so much for sharing some time with me.
That's all right. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I have asked Amy once or twice.
Look, I'm not going to tell everyone how much you paid me to get you on here, but so Tristan, as I do with everyone, I find out, what's your story? And we've had a little bit of a teensy weensy chat about, what you've been through in life, and you've kind of told me a little bit of it, but I kind of really, want to get to the deep stuff. So, what's life been like? What was your childhood like?
Yeah, look, so I am a proud Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander man, first off the bat. So I am born and raised throughout the Torres Strait on a little island called Thursday Island. So for those who don't know, Torres Strait is located in between the tip of Cape York and Papua New Guinea. There's a big mass of water. There's about 237 islands there. And the main capital of the Torres Strait is called Thursday Island. Population of about 2,000, very laid back lifestyle, kind of similar to like Fiji. Really nice blue crystal waters. Fishing is insane. People are laid back. Very, very cruisy lifestyle. And I was born and raised there, and then done all my schooling there. And I've done a few other things, but that's where my journey kind of starts. Is I'm a laid back kid from the Torres Strait. That's very cruisy in life, and just very, very, humble in where I've come from and where I'm doing, and everything I do everything I do within, my life, I do it for my people back up in the Torres Strait.
So what was it like living there? What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was really cruisy. It's very laid back. So like, say if you got to, say some started at 8:00 and you got there at 8:00, it probably hasn't even started yet because it's that laid back. And I remember I got my license up there. In order to get my license, I drove the police officer from the police station to the bakery. He got a pie, and then he drove him back, and he's like, "Yep, you passed." So very, very nice lifestyle. The beautiful people up there. Very beautiful culture. Is very, very strong culturally. So growing up throughout the Torres Strait, I was very, very proud as an Indigenous person to know and learn my culture from a very young age. So I still, speak the languages today. I still do practice the dances today. And I'm honored, I guess, that I was taught to me, and now I can be able to pass that on to, people I work with, little kids that I'm involved with, little people within the community. So growing up in Torres Strait is nice. It was very nice. I couldn't have had a very more humble upbringing. My dad was a police officer up there. Yeah. So he
was it your dad that you drove to the pie shop, or one of his mates?
No,
is that why you got your license?
He was my uncle. I was fingers crossed I was never going to fail. But dad was a police officer up there. Mum worked at the local courthouse. So life was good. I've got an older brother. He's 2 years older than me. A younger sister. She's 4 years younger than me. So I was kind of the middle child. But I guess the only thing to do up in the Torres Strait is either fishing or play sport. So I grew up as a vivid vivid rugby league player. Love my rugby league. Love my athletics.
Who's your favorite team? Just quickly.
Growing up, Cowboys. As of
Yeah.
2020, Penrith Panthers. So I'm very stoked.
Did you just say as of 2020?
Yeah. So
hang on. We need to talk. This deserves some airspace, right?
Yeah.
So you were Cowboys until what, 2019, and then you just ditched them?
No, I still like them, but I like styles of players, I guess. So so people love how different people play, or people love how different people go about do different things. I love the Penrith Panthers players because they're all young, all fresh.
Okay.
Have a bit of go amongst them. They're all
this connects to your story, right? Because they've all played together for so many, like since juniors. Most of them, like 13 of the grand final players this year, have played together since juniors.
Like I saw a thing the other day with Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary. They started playing when they were 12 together, and now they're New South Wales halves and Premiership halves. So, I love them. They've got a bit of swagger amongst them, a bit of arrogance, but that's just how the new generation is. That's how they roll.
Look, we won't tell any Cowboys players if they happen to be listening that you ditched them in 2019 for another team. We won't.
Oh well. Sorry, boys.
So okay, let's go back. So you're an avid football player.
Yeah.
Athletics.
Yeah, so I grew up playing, rugby league from a very young age. Where we actually lived, we lived right across the road from the only rugby league football oval.
Wow.
The island. So every day, guaranteed, after school, there'd be about 100 kids just playing touch footy, playing, passing the footy around, playing tackle, just hanging out like kids do back in the day. They would just hang out down the footy oval, every day, guaranteed, from about, 3:30 to as soon as the sun went down and everyone went home. That's what I'd do every afternoon, just play rugby, kick the footy around, always had a footy in my hand, always wore footy clothes to school, because back then we didn't really have uniforms, so we would just wear whatever. I'd always wear a Cowboy shirt or whatever. So love rugby league growing up. I was a very gifted sprinter early on in my days, so I was very lucky enough to represent Queensland.
Wow.
Sprinting, yeah. So 100
cool.
meters, 200 meters.
What was your best time?
For
anyone listening, they know that I'm a sprinter. So you saw competitive nature coming out.
When I was 12 years old, that was when my peak primeness. I came second in Australia, and I hit about 11.9.
You got me by 0.3.
Yeah, for a 12-year-old, that's pretty insane. So, so I was very lucky enough through athletics and all that, to be able, and rugby league, to be able to see a lot of the world, and so on, a lot of the country, a lot of Queensland. I'll travel, most years for regionals and states, and then nationals. I was very lucky enough to go to. I made both Queensland for rugby league and Queensland for athletics. So, I was very lucky, very humble. Like, my parents worked very hard and able to give me all the opportunities. I worked very hard on myself. I remember from an early age, I'd go and do beach sprints. So I'd always be doing extras at the footy oval, little things that a lot of kids weren't doing on the island. And, I was not very good academically, but I thought, I love sports. So there's one thing I'll do is I'll hustle and work hard.
What do you think it was that instilled that drive and determination in you at such a young age?
I think, look, I don't know. I think I just wanted it more. I wanted it more than anything to play rugby league, or, once I came really fast, I wanted to just see how fast I could actually get and really test myself against the best people in Australia. Because, take in mind, like, I loved rugby league and I love athletics, but at the end of the day, I was just a kid from the Torres Strait. We didn't really have much resources. My main coaches was my HB teacher at school, and he he was good, but he wasn't as good as what some of the kids are having in New South Wales or ACT, where they're going to AIS camps and stuff like that.
Yeah,
people had red tracks, people had spikes. For a lot of my athletics career, I just ran barefoot, and I'll just run barefoot. It wasn't until I was about 12 years old and I went down to Tasmania from Hobart. So imagine that, a skinny little kid going from Australia all the way down to Tasmania. And when I was getting down there, it was cold and it was freezing. The sun went down like 11 o'clock at night, just little random things. And when I get there, and they're like, "Oh, where's your spikes? You can't run barefoot." So all these kids had already had an advantage over me, and mum had to go to rebel sport. I just bought these shoes like a day before, and I'd go out and I'd run and I'd blitz them all. So,
Wow.
those little things, I did the best I could, and I
Yeah.
did the best with all the resources I had. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier on, is that all I was doing? I just want to represent my people. I just want to represent home. If I come last, I come last. If we played footy for Queensland and we finish, we didn't win second. We didn't win. We come second. It doesn't matter. I still represented it, and I put my island on the map. So that's all that was ever drove me growing up. Was I just wanted to make sure I did the best for my people, the best for my family. I did the best for my island, and I did the best for the country, which is what drives me a lot now in life. Is just when I want to give back to everyone that's instilled in me. So growing up, vivid sports, love rugby league, love athletics.
So you what age did you leave Thursday Island? Because you live in Townsville.
Yes, I live in Townsville now. So what happened was I just came back from representing Queensland Athletics, just came back from representing Queensland Rugby League.
Mm-hmm.
I went really good at both. Like I came second Australia for athletics, so I was a little bit fast. And then I went really well. I played fullback for Queensland. Randomly one day, because I lived across the road from the footy oval, I saw a bunch of Cowboys people. They had Cowboys clothes on, Cowboys shirts, Cowboys hat. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. As you do, you just walk across the oval, seeing what's going on. This is usual from the everyday kids kicking the footy around. Yeah. And it was a man by the name of Tristan Wolf. He's the was the development officer at the time for the North Queensland Cowboys, and he's now the current St. Helens coach over in the Super League. So, Wolfie was there, and we was with a few other people there, which, funny enough, that I've known them all throughout my life, like they're fellow teachers or fellow people I've known in rugby league. But they would come up to the Torres Strait, and they were just doing a bit of a development camp. And they were just doing a bit of, they got out, they made sure they did some skills and stuff within the Torres Strait. For them, it was probably a cruisy holidays. For a lot of us kids, it was, just the Cowboys. It's pretty cool.
It's Christmas.
Exactly. So I walked across footy oval, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And my HBE teacher was there at the time, and he's like, oh, this kid here just made Queensland. And they're like, oh, no one makes Queensland up here. And then I was like, yeah, no, I did, sir. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. We'll give you a shirt. So they gave me a shirt, and they said, we're here for 2 days. When you come back tomorrow, we're doing some more training stuff tomorrow. So I went home. My mum got this pretty cool shirt. Next day, I wore a shirt, went across to the oval. At the time, I was 12 years old, and we had about 15 to 18-year-olds were doing this development camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I went across the footy oval, and I remember, like, I was obviously young. Like, some of them were like 6 years older than me, and we had like a bit of a skills and did some little plays and stuff like that. And I blitzed all these older kids that were older than me, and they were kind of smashed me. I did all this other stuff, and from there it was funny. I went home, and then this was probably the Thursday. On the Friday, I woke up and Christian Wolf's in the house with me, and I was like, oh, hey, bro, like I just met you yesterday. And he come over for breakfast, and he was having a chat to mum and dad. He's like, look, I just met Tristan yesterday, but I think he's got something special. Why don't we bring him down to Townsville? And at the stage, I was like, yeah, go on, then. I don't know where Townsville is. I don't know what's doing, but when you come down, I'll go down to Townsville. So basically, that's how I kind of transitioned from the Torres Strait into where I am to Townsville now. I got picked up by the Cowboys at a very young age, at 12 years old. And when I actually came down, my parents and my family stayed on TI. So Torres Strait, they remained there. And I came down and I lived with Christian Wolf. So I only met him probably about a handful of times beforehand, but he's very, very good man. Him and his wife, Tracy, they looked after me for numerous years. They have kids, and I put them in as my little brothers and sisters. So, I was very grateful that this man, Christian Wolf, saw something in me at a football oval on TI, which changed my life since. And that's how I kind of transitioned down to Townsville. I got picked up by them. When I came down to Townsville, I went to a school called Ignatius Park College. So for people listening in Townsville, it's an all-boys secondary school. It's under the Edmund Rice banner, so it's kind of like a Christian school. Not so much tied up with the Catholic system in here, but it's for the Christian brothers. So I went to this school, and for anyone in Townsville, Iggy Park or Ignatius Park is a prestigious, like it's pretty deadly. You got to be pretty good to be going there, I guess. Or, if you go there, you want to change your life or do something better. So here I was, a skinny kid from TI. I come down and I made the move, and I made the big choice to leave my parents behind, leave my island behind, leave my culture behind, leave all my friends behind. I had to learn a new language, all this stuff, just to chase a rugby league dream. Live with a man I've only met a few times, and go to the school called Ignatius Park, which, is pretty good school. Yeah.
Okay. So talk me through what happened through school. Did you make more rep teams? Were you training in a development squad, or what happened from there?
Yeah. So, so when I came down to Iggy, obviously first it was a big culture shock. Like I said before, I left my island behind, left my family, friends. I could barely speak English because they speak Creole up there, or traditional language. So English is my third language. I could barely speak that. I didn't really know anyone. And I remember, I'll tell this story, but my first day of school, my parents came down with me to Townsville when they left, and they dropped me off. I remember I was crying in the car in the front of the school, and I was crying, and they're like, "Well, what do you want to be here for?" And I said, "Oh, for better education and to play football." And they said, "Yeah, that's good. So, you're doing us proud." So then I left, I hopped out of the car, went to the class. I was still crying. We had a role marking class, whatever it's called. And then the very first class I had was in an art room, and it was on the other side of the school. So I've never been to this school before. That was probably the first time I ever got there. I couldn't speak English. I didn't have any friends. So I didn't know where I was going. I ended up eventually finding the classroom. And then I remember as soon as I walked in, the teacher, who's obviously a good mate of mine today, but he was trying to stamp his authority. He's like, "You're late. You've got detention." And I was like, "Oh." So now,
No.
it was rough. So honestly, at that moment, I wanted to quit. I wanted to walk out of school, go to the airport, and catch the flight back home from Dad. Glad I never did, because, that was just part of the journey. That was just part of the reason why I wanted to be there. No matter how hard it was always going to be tough, but I didn't think it'd be tough from the get-go, in the first 15 minutes on the first day. So
wow.
I love that story. And he's a good mate of mine now today, our teacher, and he's like, "Oh, I never did that." You did, bro. You actually did. So throughout school, I kind of molded myself into the man I am today. I didn't know any teachers. I had no friends. I couldn't speak English. I basically had no clue how I was going to, last and survive. But as school got on, I, could play rugby league. Like I said, I love rugby league. So rugby league was like my saving grace. No matter what happened, if I had a bad day, if I was, not doing well in school, at least I had footy train that afternoon or whatnot. So I love rugby league. My athletics, probably I didn't do as much anymore, because Iggy Park is a really big rugby league school. So didn't really do as much athletics. / I started to give that back, and I just wanted to use my speed on the footy field. So I continued to make rep teams, North Queensland teams, all the way up into 15, stuff like that. Continued to live with Christian Wolf, who's a good man. And then when I was 16 years old, he got offered to be the assistant coach at Brisbane Broncos under Wayne. Wow. Christian Wolf did. So he lived with the Brizzy. And because he was moving to Brisbane with his family, Mum and Dad moved down from Torres Strait in Townsville to Brisbane. It was awesome. I had my family there. They put my younger sister through St. Margaret Mary's. My older brother went to Abigail College up in Ingham. So we were all kind of in the Catholic system within town.
Yeah.
I continued to play rugby league. Loved it, but probably the more thing I enjoyed the most was, I guess, growing as a person, growing as a man, and growing out of my shell from a shy little skinny boy to now a confident, outgoing leader if I'm among my peers. So that's what I kind of loved the most was, I got a lot of memories at Iggy Park within the rugby league system, but my most proudest memories now are probably just hanging out with my good mates, and a lot of them are the Indigenous boys of the college, and a lot of them is why I do what I do today, just give back to Aboriginal and Torres Strait people across the whole of Australia.
So what ended up happening with the Cowboys?
So I kept playing with the Cowboys, So I kicked on into continued to make teams, rep teams all the way through, and then when I was about 17 years old, I remember it vividly that someone was running on my right side, so I went to tackle up this way, but he stepped back and didn't caught me off guard. Went to tackle my left shoulder, and I dislocated my left shoulder. It was in a carnival. We were playing for North Queensland schoolboys. So if anyone knows that, it's a 3 or 4 day carnival. So
yeah,
I did on the very first day, and I was like, nah, I don't want to sit out. So it was obviously not good. I was cooked. I couldn't really do much. Couldn't really lift my arm up. Couldn't really do anything.
No.
I had to pass physical tests, and I, faked it so hard. I was like, yeah, no, it's sweet, coach. It's sweet. Put me out there, but I was nowhere near 100%. So that was on day 1, and by the time day 5 came, I was cooked. I couldn't really do anything with my shoulder, with my whole arm. I was very badly injured. So with all of that, that was earlier on in the season. So throughout the whole year, when I was 17 years old, I was playing for busted shoulder. As you do, my performances are kind of slipping. End up getting injuries in other places. And what happened with the Cowboys didn't re-sign me going into when I finished school. So 2014 this was. So 2013 was the year I had all these injuries. So I look back now and I was pretty devastated, but at the end of the day too, I was, proud of what I achieved. I didn't retire, but I was still proud of what I had that year. We run some pretty amazing things. Some of my best mates now play NRL, like Colin Hess, he's a good mate of mine. Valentine Holmes, all the boys that come through the Iggy Park system. Iggy and Kerwin have a big rivalry. Kerwin High had Brandon Smith, who plays Melbourne Storm. So there's a lot of boys that I played with that are now running around the NRL, which is good. So even though I didn't make it, I got a lot of love and a lot of praise for those lads. So that's just another part of my story, is that injuries happen and you've always got to have a backup plan, which I'm glad I did, because at the end of the day, I still want to be a rugby league player, but now I'd grown so much as a person that I kind of wanted to give back. There's the one thing that Iggy's always told me, is that it's good to give back to, the community, to your people, to people who have come before you, it's good back to give back to everyone. So, I had an idea of becoming a teacher. I had a few pretty cool, influential teachers at school. So I was like, what, I want to be like them. I want to be something like that. I want to be pretty cruisy like them. So that's what I did. I'm glad I never made it, into the Cowboy system. I never made it. I passed and went on to anything else. But I'm glad I had a backup plan to, do my bachelor in education.
So right now you're mentoring a group in the Indigenous Marathon project.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how did you get into that? How did you become part of it? What's it mean to you to be inspiring other people and running a marathon?
Yeah, it's good. It's full on, but marathon's hard. And running full stop is hard. I hate running. I still hate running, even though I'm 2 weeks out from running a marathon.
You're 2 weeks. It's in 2 weeks time.
October 23rd, and anyone listening now, it's October 8th. So there's 15 days. So this time, tomorrow, 2 weeks. We're on.
Wow.
So, I'll take you back to the beginning. After school, I kind of got, I didn't really make it with Cowboys. I turned a lot to, alcohol and, eating unhealthy and stuff like that. Stuff that I couldn't do when I was training really hard and I had to go to make Cowboys. So, I was about 98 kilos when I left school, and I was an outside back, like a center winger, like a fast, solid one. And, a lot of, over the next few years, I suffered a lot with, mental health issues. I suffered a lot with, alcoholism, all that type of stuff. So, for about 3-4 year period, I put on so much weight, and I got to about 150 kilos was what I got to. And then I just looked. I remember one day I looked in the mirror. I said, "Bro, what's doing here?" So then I started to get back on a health journey. I just started to eat better, go to the gym every now and then, do little things here and there. So I joined the boot camp, and the boot camp helped me lose heaps of weight as well, which is pretty good. So I was still about 120, but I was bigger. I was fitter than what I was once was. But still sometimes people would come up and be like, I used to hate it. I was doing really well in life at that time too. I had a really good job. I had a really nice car, like little things like that. But whenever people would see me, they'd be like, "Oh, bro, you put on so much weight." So like little things like that, it's annoying because they don't really care about everything else you're doing. They just look at your appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's a story for another day. But yeah, I just kind of started to enjoy doing physical stuff and doing fitness. So when I was at my heaviest, I stopped playing rugby league. When I got down to about 120, I started to play it again. I started to enjoy it. I didn't really want to do it for contracts or stuff. I just loved playing with my older brother. I love playing with my family and my cousins and all that. My dad was my coach at one stage. One team that had my older brother with me. I had all my other cousins in the team. So we just played it for a local A grade team in Townsville, and I just did it because I just loved the game of rugby league again. So I continued to play rugby league, and in 2019, my older cousin, he is from TI as well, from Thursday Island as well. So he applied for this program called the Indigenous Marathon Project. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
He trained up to run a marathon, and at the time, I remember all us boys were like kind of like taking the piss out of him. We're like, "Bro, what are you doing that for? Like, running's hard," because we come from a footy background where if we're running, it's preseason and we're getting flogged.
Yeah.
So we were like, "Neil, what are you doing that for, bro? Like, you're big known. What do you want to do it?" Which is kind of like a crab in the bucket syndrome to have. We should have been giving him praise, but he would stay pretty confident. He's like, "No, I made this program." And we didn't know at the time, but he had made the Indigenous Marathon Project, and I didn't know much about the program. All I knew was he got in, and then the end goal for him was he ran the New York Marathon.
Oh wow, cool!
November in 2019. So that was pretty cool. And after that, I started to towards the end of the journey, I was like, yeah, no, this is actually a pretty good follow, and I started to support him. Didn't really know much about the program, didn't really know what was doing, and I just knew that he got in, ran a lot, and then ran a marathon in New York. And he got a free trip to New York. And I was like, bro, that seems bad.
Wow.
Who knew? I didn't know anything else throughout his journey, but that was my first instance of the Indigenous Marathon Project in the Indigenous Marathon Foundation, which is founded by Rugby. So anyone knows, Deeks, his nickname is. He's one of the greatest marathon runners in Australia, and he's up there and had numerous world records. Won Boston Olympic Games, won New York Marathon, won a lot of marathons throughout the world. So he's one of the greatest runners ever, and he's from Australia, which is awesome.
So what's the purpose behind the Indigenous Marathon Project?
Yeah, so it takes, I guess the Indigenous Marathon Project takes 12, well, we have 14 in our squad. So the Indigenous Marathon Project takes 14 young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders aged between 18 and 30 from all around Australia. And they go from 0 to running a marathon in 6 months. So
wow.
So I applied this year through Neil. Neil said, "Yeah, hey bro, Indigenous Marathon Project's open. Applications open this year. Why don't you have a go?" And at the time, early in the year, I had a rough period. I'd just broken up with my long-term partner. I wasn't really doing much. And I was like, "Yeah, why not, bro? Like, there's nothing else doing in my life. Why not just apply?" I hated running, so I was like, yeah, I'll just apply and hopefully I don't get in because it means I have to run. So I remember they travel all around Australia to do trials everywhere. The first one they had was Canberra. They made their way all the way up the East Coast. And this is about March this year where they were Uncle Rob Di Costella, and the current coach, his name is Damien Tuck. Yeah, the current coach, Damien Tuck, they came to Townsville. And Neil, the day before, said, "Hey, bro, applications are still open when you do it." And I was like, yeah, why not? So I was at work board one time. I logged on, put on my application. Can't remember what I said. I just remembered I winged it and wrote as really good as I could.
Yeah.
And the next day was the trial. I rock up to the trial and they're like, "Okay, we're just going to go for a 5K run." I ain't running. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it." I remember during that 5K run, all we did for people who live in towns was we ran around Anzac Park 5 times. So it's kind of like, okay, so we ran around there 5 times, but I think it's a bit more. So we end up running about 5.4, 5.3. I don't really matter. But during those 5.3 Ks, I stopped 3 times. I had two other amazing support runners with me who are now two of my best mates. And they're like, no, mate, you're going really well. They had just run like 10Ks early that morning. And I felt bad because they were running with me really slowly. And they were chatting away and having a good time and saying,
you were there. Dying.
So I was dying. And then, yeah, I remember the 5K mark was halfway around Anzac Park. And they're like, what do you want to do? Do you want to stop or do you want to keep going? I was like, no, it's just there. I can see them. Oh, no, I'll just run to there. So I ran around the end. And I remember the coach saying, wow, mate, you know, you didn't even pull up. You could have pulled up back there, but you kept running. I was like, and then in my head, I was like, yeah, you know, I did. So that kind of flipped the switch at, you know, running it's okay. It's not too bad. It's not as bad as I thought it is.
Too bad. Yeah.
So we had that. We did the 5K run. I remember we go over to a park bench on the Strand, and he sits down with me, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a bit of a chat. We'll do a bit of an interview." I had no idea there was an interview, so I was cooked. I was like, "Oh yeah," I didn't even know what I was saying in the interview, but I remember he said, "Mate, you've got a really good application." Me scratching my head that I've done it the day before, like, yeah, no, thanks, I've worked really hard on it, and I winged it in about 10 minutes. So
yeah.
You know, it's just funny how it all came. And then they said, look, you went really well. We'll be in touch. And then they headed off to Cairns for the next trials. This was about March. So about May. Neil, so he's important in my story. So Neil, me and him have now founded the Townsville Indigenous Deadly Runners group. So,
amazing.
In Townsville, every Saturday we meet at a spot and we just get, you know, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of all ages, younger kids. Our oldest lady, she's 80 and she just comes for like a 10-minute walk. So
wow.
Use her as inspiration, Auntie Jackie. So if Auntie Jackie, you go out and do a walk, and you know, you can come and join us too. So
yeah,
we founded that, and it was in May. They asked us to go down to Canberra for a Deadly Runners Symposium. So it's all part of that Indigenous Marathon Foundation brand. They got all the deadly run leaders from all over Australia. So Canberra, South Australia, Brizzy, Darwin, you know, up in the Torres Strait, over in Broome, everywhere to meet in Canberra just to catch up. Everyone else knew each other except me, because Neil ended up pulling out. So I went down solo to fly the Townsville flag. So everyone else kind of knew each other. I was a bit, you know, awkward. I was like the one left out, but I was like, oh, you know what, it's cool. I'm outgoing, so it doesn't matter. The very first day of the symposium, Uncle Robbie Costello, he's given a big spiel about an Indigenous marathon project for this year. You know, we've had, you know, heaps of really good applicants all across. You know, we had so many good women that we couldn't split it. We usually take 12, so 6 boys, 6 girls, but we're taking 8 girls. He's given us this big spiel. We're going to, you know, do Sydney City to Surf. We're going to do all this. We're going to the Kakadu and run the Kakadu National Park.
Oh,
and
wow.
giving everyone a big spiel about in the Indigenous Marathon Project. I had applied, but I hadn't found out anything, so I didn't even know what was going on. So I'm sitting in the front row, like, oh yeah, like I obviously didn't get in because he's having a big yarn about it, and he did not make eye contact with me once, and he's saying how good the boys, how amazing the males are, and how amazing the females are, and I was like, oh, well, I haven't got in because I haven't heard, and I would have heard something, and it was kind of like a bit of a random experience. But at the time, when Uncle Rob was giving his big spiel, I was sitting like this, and I was like, oh, I didn't get it. And I got a text message, so my watch beeped, and I went like that, and I looked down, and it was the coach, Damien Tuck, and said, hey, mate, I heard you're in Canberra. I'm going to catch up for coffee. And I was like, oh, my God.
I'm in.
So I kind of thought I was in, but I was like, you know what? I'm not too sure. So maybe trying to play cool. Yeah, sounds good. We're in Canberra. Can catch up whenever you're free. But same time, I was like, I wanted to know right then and right now.
Yeah, just tell me.
He's like, yeah, I'll catch up this afternoon. I'll come around to where your conference was and we'll catch up. I was like, yeah, sure. We'll see you then. I was stressing the whole day. I was peaking because within these deadly run leaders, so all the people that run all the deadly runners across Australia were previous grads, so graduates from last year, graduates from, you know, all the years have gone by because it's been going since 2010. So they were like, oh yeah, we can't wait to see you made into IMP this year. We can't wait to see who's in the project this year. See if you know anyone. And I'm just like, yeah, me too. I can't wait. I didn't tell anyone I applied because it would have been shame if I get in. So anyway, long story short, met up with coach. He tried to do the old, we had a lot of applicants this year. We had about 400. Only 12 get in. He asked me how the weather was in Canberra and coming from Townsville. I was like, yeah, it sucks. It's cold. And he's like, oh, look, that's a shame, mate, because you're going to hate it even more when you come back, in the next few weeks for the Indigenous Marathon Project because you got in and did that. And I remember I was just like, whoa, this is insane. So he did say that, you can't tell anyone. It's not public, so don't tell anyone. So I had to go upstairs for the next 3 days and lie to every single of these people. All the ones that kept asking me, have you heard from coach? Do you know who got in? What did he want to talk to you about? And I was like, he cancelled.
Just want to have a chat.
Yeah, he wanted to have a chat. He cancelled. He didn't even end up going. I just went to Kmart and got some clothes. So, I had to build lie upon lie upon lie. Until the end of the symposium where it kind of got made public knowledge I got in. So it's a pretty big thing. Like, to put it in context, about 400-500 people apply every year.
Wow.
And they only choose 12 within Australia. So nationwide, between 18 to 30-year-olds. Like, it's a pretty important thing. This has been going since 2010, what I've done. And even once you're in, you're not guaranteed. You still got to work hard. You still got to show commitment to your squad. You got to do all the training leading up to the marathon. So in the Indigenous Marathon Project, once you cross the finish line, you get a graduate number. So there's 109 grads.
Yeah.
109 that have crossed the finish line of a marathon, which means there's 109 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia.
You've done it. What does it mean to you to be part of it?
Oh, it's everything. Like, yeah, it's a good question, but it's really special. I'm pretty outgoing and pretty. I love a laugh and I love a joke, but at the end of the day, I'm a pretty humble kid, and for me, it means a lot because it's all the effort and work that my parents put into raising me into a young man. It's all the effort I put in as a teenager, moving away from home. It's all the effort I put in. From being 150 kilos to drop in weight just to get out on a reasonable distance to go running, and now to be getting in, it means a lot. Like, it means a lot for me, but I'm sure the most thing that I'm proud of the most is that it means a lot to the people around me. All my good friends, my mates, my family members, my nana. She's 78 and she loves the fact that I'm in. She will go to the shops and tell people I'm running a marathon. But that cool. It means a lot for me, but for them and for everyone else, that's why I do it, because I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let everyone who supported me down. I don't want to let all my friends, my family down. So, for me, I'm just running. I'm suffering a bit, but for everyone else, it's an incredible journey, which everyone's seen me go through over the last 6 months. So, yeah.
Well, Tristan, it sounds like there's a really strong connection to your heritage and your culture. And I'm sure we're going to see so much more from you in the future. And I feel like this is your starting point. This is kind of your platform that you'll launch from. And I think there's really big things coming for you. So well done.
Thank you.
To go from where you've come from to where you are now, that's and still being so young. You've already been on one amazing journey, and yeah, it's exciting to see what's coming up for you in the future, and maybe we can catch up again in 12 months and see what's been happening for you over that time, and I think you'll have a lot more stories to tell us. Hopefully
I've got a few more stories about the marathon. Hopefully I've done more people proud. So I think that's just the main thing I'm doing it, is that even though I'm going to be the one dying, I'm doing it for the people of Torres Strait. I'm doing it for my family, my friends. I'm doing it for people like you that support the journey. I'm just doing it for everyone else. It's been pretty amazing, but we're 2 weeks out, so I'm loving every second of it. And in 2 weeks' time, I'll be Indigenous Marathon Project graduate.
You will, and please let us know how you go. We'll keep everyone posted on your result at the end of it, and we'll be cheering for you from our Facebook feed when we find out where you.
Yeah.
And giving you a thumbs up, and well done. And thank you so much for your time and sharing, a bit of your journey with us all.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And thanks.
My pleasure. Ciao. Well, there you have it. Yet another inspirational and motivational story that we were able to share with you. Please don't keep us a secret. Share the love across all of the social media platforms. The more the merrier. If we can get the message out to as many people as possible, then we can inspire and motivate as many people as possible. Really hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to sharing another one with you next time.